Yes, it's time for our Blue Jays recap. An incredible season, getting all the way to the World Series. Although Ross and I both called it, if you look back at our Blue Jays and playoff preview for Major League Baseball. Joe Tilley here, along with Ross Granado, here for our recap. And what a year it's been, Ross, hey?
It
What a
has
year.
been such a good year for the Jays. I mean, they absolutely blew past any expectations that anyone gave to them. And regardless of the outcome of what's about to happen, I would see this season being an absolute success for them.
No question about that. So we beyond success, beyond belief,
Yeah.
really, when you think about it. This is a team that was last place in the division last season,
Yeah.
all the way to first in the division, and of course, an appearance in the World Series. I want to talk about some of the offseason moves that the Blue Jays made. For as far as free agent signings goes, there was Eric Lauer, Anthony Santander, Jeff Hoffman, and Max Scherzer. Ross, who do you see as the biggest signing in the offseason?
Well, I would say for name value, I think it would definitely have to be Santander. I feel like he was definitely brought in to be that guy to, drive in more runs and, be that cleanup guy and, just bring everyone in. But unfortunately, he had a very injury-plagued season. And I think that as Blue Jays fans, we didn't get to see the full potential of Santander, which is, that 40 home run, 90 RBI guy season. But I definitely think for the playoffs, I think Hoffman has definitely been probably one of the more stout signings that they had, especially against the Mariners. I mean, he pitched unreal. He pitched, I'm pretty sure it was like 10 innings or 5 innings. He had like 10 strikeouts, no earned runs. Like he was unhittable. But for all around, I think I'd definitely have to go with Eric Lauer. I mean, I don't think anyone saw coming the season he put together, and he really held the rotation together for almost the whole season.
Yeah, Eric Lauer is a very valuable piece for this Blue Jays club all the way through the first 162 games for sure. And
Mhm.
Jeff Hoffman, I mean, if it's just those two games against Seattle,
Yeah,
you know,
it's worth it.
just worth it for
Yeah,
Jeff Hoffman. But I mean, here's a guy who was a little shaky. I mean, at times
yeah,
during the season, I found that his best situation was always going to be when the Jays were leading by one or two runs. You put in Hoffman there, and he got the job done
yeah.
almost all the time. I mean, he did bend, but he really didn't break on most of those occasions. So all of the signings turned out to be okay. Santander, of course, you can't predict those injuries, but that's what happened. And Max Scherzer, of course, gave us
Yeah,
more than we probably would have expected for a
yeah,
41-year-old.
yeah.
And we get to that start that he made, but invited to spring training, Mason Fluharty, Miles Straw. Who saw that coming? Who saw that they would be, you know, uh, significant parts of this team when they were brought into spring trainings as invitees, right?
Yeah, I know I definitely didn't, especially Miles Straw. I mean, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, in 2024, I believe he played in 3 games, and then they sent him down to the minors, and he never came back up. And the Blue Jays just took a chance on him this offseason, and it worked out great. In the first half, he was amazing at hitting, but for the whole season, his defense was irreplaceable. Like he was amazing, especially with Varsho going down. I mean, if we didn't have Miles Straw,
Oh,
who knows how good our outfield defense would have been, right?
right. Eighth and ninth inning of a close game, you're
Yeah.
going to see Miles Straw every time,
Yeah,
every time.
pretty much, yeah.
So then in July, we acquired Louis Varland and Ty France from Minnesota, Shane Bieber from Cleveland, acquired Sir Anthony Dominguez from Baltimore, claimed IKF from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh they didn't have a great season with the
Yeah.
Pirates, but the Jays knew what potentially could happen if they signed IKF, another defensively solid guy, and who managed to get a couple of clutch hits for the Jays.
Tell me about it. I mean, Joe, if you were to tell me way back in, March or April that Isaiah Kiner-Falefa would be starting Game 7 of the ALCS for the Toronto Blue Jays, I would call you crazy. Yeah, here we are. And if I'm not mistaken, he was either the tying or the go-ahead run on that Springer home run.
Right. Yeah, he
Like,
got himself on base with a huge clutch hit. Yeah, that was incredible. So Okay, looking back at this season, all right. So if we go back to May 27th, the Jays are 26 and 28. They're third place in the American League East, and they're 8 games behind the New York Yankees. So this is May 27th, a couple of months into the season. Does anybody see this kind of a turnaround?
And this current moment of the season, I do not think so whatsoever, no.
Yeah, we're not seeing that happening. Okay, so now on July 3rd, all of a sudden, June comes along, things heat up a little bit. And on July 3rd, the Jays beat the Yankees 11-9 at home. That tied them with the Bronx Bombers for first place at 48 and 38. The next day, they took the lead and they would never relinquish it. What do you remember happening from that team back in early July?
I feel like everything was kind of like not coming together. Well, obviously it did, but I feel like we kind of saw the guys like Clement and Barger and all the young guys step up and begin to do more of their job. And I think that, without those guys, I don't think we would be here. And it was a very injury-plagued season for a lot of players on the roster. And I feel like that was like when we kind of saw that, this team could be special and everyone just, they don't try to do too much. They just kind of all do their job and they know what they're supposed to do and they were getting it done as a team.
Right, that was a next man up attitude kind of
Yep,
grew out of that,
exactly.
didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's continued on.
Hmm.
Okay, onward to September 28th, the final day of the regular season. They are tied with the Yankees going into that game. Of course, the Yankees closed out the season with 6 straight wins, and the Jays had to win it 3 to keep pace. And of course they did. They swept Tampa. They beat them 13-4 to complete the sweep and claim first place in the American League, not just the division, at 94 and 68. That got them the home field advantage against the Yankees, who had the same record. And how important was that? Eh?
Oh, Jesus is so important. I mean, I think like the home field advantage is always, no matter what sport it is, it's always going to be extremely important. And especially, I know for the Jays, I truly think we have the best fan base in baseball. And, we have a whole country backing this team. And if we, if we don't have home field, let's say Seattle has it, do we win in seven against Seattle, right? So I think that truly, yeah, the home field advantage and even winning the division in general, like it's all great accomplishments, and I do think it's important. And I was very nervous for that game, especially. I know it on paper it looks like a blowout, 13-4, but
Right.
like it's the
There
Tampa
are
Bay
times.
Rays. Yeah,
Yeah.
there were t times, and you ask any player in the back half of the season, what keeps them motivated to keep going, and they say playing spoiler. So, they love to do that. They love to mess up teams' rhythm and just knock them out of the playoffs. So, yeah, I was definitely nervous, but I'm glad that they were able to get it done.
Yeah, the Rays didn't come to Toronto to hand the Jays the championship. They
Yeah.
they came to play, and
Yeah.
with the Jays, man, they just, that was their part of their identity is just digging
Yeah.
in and getting the job done. And as you mentioned, I mean, they had an incredible home field advantage because their home record was
Yeah.
spectacular. And there's
Hmm.
something about having that last at bat, right, that gives you
Yeah.
the edge. No question about it. And you know, so the Yankees beat the Red Sox in the wild card series, pretty good series, and then we go to Game one of the ALDS. Kevin Gossman on the hill. He allowed 4 hits and a run over 5 2/3. 4 relievers teamed up to close the deal. Vlad Guerrero and Alejandro Kirk both homered in that game. The Jays won 10-1 against the Yankees. And here's just the hottest team in baseball coming into town, and they get blasted 10-1. What
Yeah.
was significant for you in that game?
I think it was for the Yankee, I'm leaning more towards like the Yankees perspective here, and I feel like obviously they just came off the series with the Red Sox, so that's a bit of a disadvantage. But yeah, coming into the playoffs, they were the hottest team, and I think, maybe they underestimated the Jays a little bit. And I know that the Jays were obviously fully rested and everything, but I just think that I don't know, the whole series, the Yankees, especially the hitting, just looked off. They really
Yeah.
did, and I think even Judge, like he didn't look like himself. He played amazing, don't get me wrong, but one guy can only do so much. And I think game one set the tone for the Yankees that I kind of knew. I kind of knew that
Yeah.
the Jays had the better team.
Well, the Yankees were favored by the odds makers heading into
Yep.
that
Yep.
series, but it's something about like you talked about is that
Hmm.
the Yankees judge was great, but as far as a team game goes, the
Hmm.
Jays certainly had the edge. Then game two, Trey Savage, fourth big league start at that point,
Yeah.
first ever in the postseason, allowed 0 hits over five and a third with 11 strikeouts. Now John Schneider was criticized for pulling the kid early. But they did get the win. Clement, Guerrero, Varsho, Springer all went deep in that game. Jays jumped all over Max Fried, Yankees' best pitcher, and beat them 13-7. What
Hmm.
was significant for you in that one?
I think that was another statement game for the Jays, especially. Yeah, I feel like the reason why they played so well is because Trey started and they wanted to make sure he got the win, that he was backed up. And I feel like I I'm kind of on the fence with Schneider about keeping him in and pulling him. And when I look back at it, I feel like it was good that he did pull him. He pitched unreal, but there's no reason to even if let's say that series, goes to five, and they could have used him in the bullpen if it was needed, right? So it's always good to save a guy, and you don't need to burn him if you don't need to, especially a young guy like that, right? You always want to make sure you have your arms, and because he pitched so well, I think he went with the right decision to pull him.
Right, and look at he later on in the next series, right, saving Gosman, and he pulled
Exactly.
Gosman a little bit
Yeah,
early. That turned to be a significant,
exactly.
valuable step for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so game three, Shane Bieber got the hook in the third. The bullpen imploded. Jays blew a 6-1 lead, and many were saying, "Uh oh, here we go.
Yep.
Yankees are coming back."
Yep. Those pesky Yankees.
Yeah, it was a tough game for sure. Okay, so game four. Now a lot of people were criticizing Schneider because it was a bullpen game, but Schneider, Pete Walker, they took a lot of heat for that. But eight pitchers. I remember one Yankees broadcaster saying, "Oh, oh, here we go. Are you kidding me? This is the worst managerial decision in the history of baseball. They're going to yet let the Yankees back in. The Yankees going to win this series, and John Schneider's going to look like an absolute idiot." What? What? Eight pitchers combined on 6 hits and 2 runs. Nathan Lucas, right?
Yep.
All right. With 2 big hits, the guy who spent 10 years in the minor leagues finally gets a chance to play in the big leagues. Boy, did he ever come through. Jays win at 5-2 to take the series in 4 games. Ernie Clement hit 643 in this series. Wow, that was
Absolutely
incredible. Yeah,
unreal. That's
yeah.
crazy.
But that bullpen game, not a common thing in
No.
baseball. So
No.
managers taking a bit of a chance, but here's a guy who knows his team, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing about the bullpen game is like when it works great. When it doesn't work, it does not work great. And they knew, like you said, they knew their team. They knew what they needed to do. And obviously they went with the right decision. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now, chances are.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, so the Yankees facing different pitchers all the time. They could
yeah.
never make the adjustments.
Yeah.
I turned out to be good. Jay scored 34 runs in that series and taken it 4 games. And it's on to the ALCS. Game one in Toronto, significant for sure,
Mhm.
except for the fact that the Mariners spoiled the party, right? Bryce Miller, 3 relievers, held the Jays to 2 hits. 2 hits
Mm.
after coming off 34 runs against the Yankees. You're going, what happened? I mean, Kevin Gossman allowed 3 hits over 5 and 2/3 innings. He did his thing, but the Jays bats weren't working. Why was that, you think?
I think for the first two games of the series, I feel like the Jays kind of lost their identity of, what this team is. And I feel like a lot of it too is like obviously like the Mariners have a great pitching staff. Don't get me wrong, I think it's one of the best in the league. But I feel like, they kind of just, you come off beating the Yankees and you still have home field advantage and, they could be thinking all the Mariners just played what a 13, 14 inning game, whatever it was, some crazy innings to, squeak through for them. And here we are now, and oh, we got these guys. And I just feel like they lost their identity, but I don't know. It seems like they got it back, and I'm glad that they did. But yeah, I just feel
Yeah.
like they kind of maybe not underestimated the Mariners, but I'm not sure. They just didn't look like themselves through the first two
No,
games.
the first two
Not at
games were
all.
off, and game two in Toronto, kind of a replay. Mariners
Yeah.
got to Trey Savage in this fifth inning.
Hmm.
Julio Rodriguez, Jorge Polanco, Josh Naylor all went deep. Josh, the Canadian kid from Mississauga, as the Mariners cruise 10-3. And at this point you're going, yikes! Only three teams in Major League history have come back from losing the first two games at home. So I mean, it did not look good for the Jays. You would
No.
have got pretty good odds on that one for the Jays
Yeah.
coming back. But here we go. Game three in Seattle. Shane Bieber scattered just 4 hits over 6 innings. Jays had their hitting shoes on for sure in this one after being, non-existent pretty much for the first two games. First two games, they pounded out 18 hits and got homers from Jimenez, Springer, Guerrero, Kirk, and Barger. Vlad was 4 for 4 in that game as the Jays rolled 13-4, and that was when we said, okay, they're back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that game three was most definitely the turnaround game for the whole series. Especially from, the hitters, like you said, they had 18 hits and their best player went 4 for 4. And that says a lot. I feel like the big boys definitely came to play. And I
Yeah,
think they realized that if they didn't win that game three,
yeah.
chances would have plummeted even more, right? So
Right. Only one team had ever come back from
yeah.
3-0, and
Yeah.
it's probably not happening. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Red Sox did win Game 4 at home, so they lost the first two against the Yankees, and then
Okay.
came back, and I believe so. I think that's how it went down. In any case, it was going to take
Yeah.
a monumental task if they didn't take Game 3.
Yeah.
Now Game 4, still in Seattle. Jays give the ball to the wily veteran, 41-year-old Max Scherzer. And
Mhm.
this is a move that I really, really liked. I actually spoke up about this. I said, if I'm the Jays, I'm giving the ball to Max Scherzer just because he's going to bring the experience. That he can handle the pressure. A couple times Cy Young winner, a couple World Series. I mean, the guy's been around the block so many times, and even though he's 41 years old, he's going to bring some intensity to the game. And did he ever? He refused to leave the game in the fourth
Yeah.
inning when John Schneider came out. That was an interesting moment, wasn't
Yeah. I don't read lips, Joe, but I have a feeling I know what he was saying to Schneider.
it?
But yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about Scherzer too much when bringing up the free agent signings, but I mean, they gave him a big paycheck just for the one season, and many people didn't know whether he was or wasn't gonna pitch, but I mean, I think it turned out great. Again, it's one of those little things. Like if Scherzer doesn't start game four, do they win that series? We
All right.
we'll never know, right? And a guy like that who's been around, and this is his fourth different team that he's pitched for in the playoffs, and you can never go wrong with experience like that. And I think he showed up, and he told Schneider to politely get off of his mound,
Yeah.
and it worked out. It worked out great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It reminds me of Ross Atkins and Mark
Yeah.
Shapiro have taken so much heat over
Yep.
the last few years for failing to fill the holes that the
Yeah.
Jays needed. It was bullpen at one time. It was just adding a little offense, and another
Hmm.
time. But they just, they certainly made all the right moves. And it was they put this team together that
Yeah.
well, here we are.
Yeah.
Go,
And they definitely, I feel like they had a plan and they stuck to it. And I'm sure at times, like, 2022, 2023, that plan didn't go as they wanted it to, but I don't think they hit the panic button. They could have easily, tried to get rid of Springer, tried to get rid of Bo and, not bring back Vlad, but they stuck to the plan and they believed in this group, just like everyone in the management staff, and it worked out great. It really
yeah.
did.
And what an incredible comeback season from
Yeah.
George Springer. You know, uh, so in that game, Jeff Hoffman, Sir Anthony Dominguez were flawless. Andre Jimenez homered and drove in 4 runs. Jays take it 8-2. Big win. Now the series is tied, and now the momentum has completely shifted. And we go to game 5, and once again, Gosman was great. Varland picked him up. George Springer got nailed in the knee by Brian Wu, and that was interesting because the fans were booing Springer, a very
Yeah.
classless move. He left the game, and people the old saying, "Karma's a bitch," eh?
Yeah.
Huh? Karma's a bitch. They're booing
Yeah.
George Springer. He left the game, and it was not a pleasant sight in Seattle. I'm sure a lot of the fans there thought it was pretty classless.
Yeah.
those few fans who were booing, but it was a bad move. The Jays led this game into the eighth inning, but Schneider put in Brendan Little, and Little imploded. And I think probably the only person who thought it was a good idea to put Brendan Little into that game was John Schneider.
Yeah.
You know, the analyst, Joe Siddle says, you got to do what you did last night.
Yeah.
Hoffman Dominguez, boom, boom, it worked. Let's do it again. But, Schneider felt otherwise, and that was an interesting decision.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm an MLB manager, right? With a world class, pitching coach right beside me. But I mean, yeah, there's always in hindsight, you could easily go back at any play throughout the season and say, oh, they should have done this differently. They could have done this differently, but every single move that happened has got us to where we are.
Right.
And, Schneider, he's always said, right after they won Game 7, he said, I believe in every single guy in this group. And he said he puts all his full faith into the players and that they deserve all the credit. And I think Schneider is just a great manager. And I know he was here definitely for, especially last year when they weren't that good. And I'm sure he took a lot of heat and whatnot. But I feel like he's just a manager that's all about his players. And he puts his players first and he puts his full trust in the players. And I think that's why this season it ended up working out so great for them.
Right, that one move didn't work out, but when you
Yeah.
look at it, and I think you were telling me that it's 79 games that Brendan Little
Yeah.
appeared in this season.
Yeah.
Without Brendan Little, the Jays are not in the
Exactly.
playoffs.
That's what I mean. And
So
yeah.
that was pretty significant. And I know Little was he took it hard, he took
Yeah.
it hard, man. But he faced the media,
Hmm.
he faced the music, and he was there. And this situation just wasn't made for him. And that's just the way it is. But again, he's a big part of this team, and they don't get there.
Yep.
Uh,
For
it's one
sure.
of those situations. If they get a chance to win a world championship trophy, one of the first guys who they should hand it to would probably be Mr. Little.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jays fans went nuts, but they ended up getting the job done. Mariners
Yeah.
scored 5 runs in that inning, for that 6-2
Hmm.
victory and a 3-2 series lead. And now things are a little dicey as they come back home to Toronto for Game 6. And it's back to Savage, 22-year-old rookie of the with the season on the line. Pretty tense situation, and he does it again. 5 2/3
Hmm.
innings. Louis Varland with an inning and a third to clean up and to mop it up and help him preserve that, and then Jeff Hoffman with that incredible 6-out relief appearance, striking out the side in the ninth inning, going, I think your money was well spent, Blue Jays.
Yeah. For
Right?
sure. For
That was a
sure.
phenomenal, right? At home, the place is going nuts. And that last out was, oh man, so incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
as Rodriguez chasing went outside and low a little bit, but you know what? It was, Hoffman was just so on and so calm, cool, and collected in a tough situation.
Yeah.
And you know,
I think that was probably one of the best games I watched all season.
yeah,
Like truly, it
yeah.
just felt like, and after that game, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, there's no way we're not winning this in 7. Like, there's no way.
Right, because it's is it the what was the final score in that game? It was
I'm
game
trying to
six.
think.
Anyway, yeah, it was 4-3 in the final game, if I'm not mistaken, right? 4-3.
Yeah, I'm trying. I
I
can't
might
remember
be
the
six.
scores.
Might have been 6-4. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was a big win for
Hmm.
them. And around that time, I'm seeing the pictures of the videos of Vlad Jr. and Vlad Sr. starting
Hmm.
to circulate, and that is such a cool moment, eh?
Yeah.
When Vlad Sr. is playing for the Expos, Vlad Jr. of course born in Montreal,
Hmm.
and here we are. The guy who is you know the number one player in the team, the highest salary, the big Kahuna, and he is rising to the occasion, and
Hmm.
it was such an incredible scene.
Yeah.
All right, so Game 7. Now Bieber wasn't at his best. Left in the fourth inning, trailing 2-1. Jays couldn't get anything going against George Kirby and Brian Wu.
Mhm.
But Wu left in the seventh with 2 on and 1 out. And I'm sure a lot of Mariners fans will be saying a lot of the same kind of things that Jays did after Brendan Little went in there. Although they bring in Eduardo Bazardo, who has, in to this point, pitched incredibly well throughout
Hmm.
the entire playoffs and in the series. So, but here we go. We get Bazardo comes in to face George Springer, who had struck out against Wu, and then Springer, sore knee and all, because he's still ailing from that taking that ball off the knee, and he hits one out, a majestic three-run homer, bringing the fans to their seats, bringing the nation to their seats,
Yeah,
because coast to coast, I think there was something like 8 million Canadians watching that ball game. Eight
unreal.
million Canadians, like that's like 1/5 of the country's population, all
Yeah.
tuned in, and they're watching George Springer do his thing, which was unbelievable. And here's the comeback player of the year heading into the playoffs. Never mind after the regular season he
Yeah.
had. And here's a comeback as player of the year coming off the knee injury, coming off all the stuff that he went through, and then doing that right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about that seventh inning. There really is. I mean, 10 years ago, look, we saw what Bautista did,
Ah,
and Springer just did the
right.
exact same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. Like, I honestly, I'm even still shocked. Like, there was honestly, like, I'm gonna say it, there was like almost nothing happening for the Jays all
No
game
hope.
until that moment.
It
We
was
had
like
no
no
hope,
hope.
no
No
hope.
hope.
And
I
then
think
it's,
everybody's just sitting there on their couch at home going, "Oh
yeah,
no!" Even the fans, the place is kind of dead for
yeah,
45,000 fans in Game
yeah.
7. But it's kind of like what?
And
But
that's the amazing thing about baseball is it's I mean obviously like it's more than one swing, but it really is just one swing just changed the whole season, you know? And here we are, World Series.
right now it's a 4-3 lead. Now
Yeah,
game's not over, but it's a
yeah,
4-3 lead, and now we back to the bullpen, and it's Varland for the 10th time in the playoffs gets a
yeah.
call. Absolutely superb. Dominguez gets his part, does his part. Then it's Gosman who had just started 3 days before, and again, we talked about John Schneider pulling
Mhm.
pitchers after 5 1/3, 5 2/3, keeping it fresh because you never going to know where you want him in the bullpen. And then of course Chris Bassett.
Yep.
Hey, who saw this coming? Chris Bassett, who hadn't pitched in the playoffs, and but was added to the playoff roster for the
Mhm.
ALCS, and in one of the most significant roles and
Yeah.
one of the most significant times, he was absolutely perfect for that eighth inning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think their whole plan was to add him to the roster to pitch in the eighth inning of Game 7. I think that was their whole plan.
Yeah, John Schneider wrote that on the wall. Okay,
Yeah.
what we're going to do is we're going to have Chris Bassett coming in to pitch
Yeah.
Game 7 in the eighth inning. And of course, Hoffman comes in.
Yeah.
Okay, he had thrown 35 pitches the night before, struck out the side in this game to end it, sending the J. Maybe I'm thinking when I talked about that Rodriguez strikeout, maybe I'm talking about this game. This is maybe the Rodriguez strike. Anyway,
Yeah.
he struck out the side in order, of course, sending the Jays to the World Series for the first time in 32 years. And, Hoffman did so much in that series.
Mhm.
Unbelievable. But, of course, Vladdy was the MVP and well
Yeah.
deserved.
Yeah. I know in our prediction, I mean obviously we were bang on about the Jays going to the World Series and I think we had if I'm not mistaken, I think you said Springer would be ALCS MVP.
Yeah.
That's close. I really thought it was gonna happen just because of the one home run. But again, like Vladdy played unreal the whole playoffs, so I can see why they gave it to him. But yeah, I guess my question for you is now that we are in the World Series, are you sticking with Springer for World Series MVP?
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to stick to that because
Yeah.
you know what? I think that, it's Springer time.
Yeah.
This is Springer time. Here's a guy who rises to the occasion, rises to those big moments, and we know that.
Hmm.
The guys have come through all the way through, all the way through. There was a one little kind of glitch, game 1 and 2 against Seattle, where they didn't, the bats were not what we expect them to be. But Springer is going to be that leader. When things are touchy go and they're having a hard time hitting Otani or Yamamoto or whatever it is, and and Springer will be that guy who comes through with the big hit. I can see that happening and sort of leading by example and being the guy. So yeah, I don't see any reason why would change that pick. And how about you?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm after actually watching some of the playoff games, I'm kind of leaning towards a few different guys here. I know before the playoffs started, I went with Barger, and I still think that could happen. I still think, he's been good. He's been quiet, but he's been good. Very underrated. But especially against the Yankees, Ernie Clement was unreal. I feel like he definitely has a chance. And honestly, depending how game one goes, I would not count out Trey. I feel like
Right,
he could easily win it too
right.
if he
Because
pitches good. Yep.
if it, in a 7 game series, you could go 1-4-7, right?
147, yep.
And
That's
that would
and
be
yeah.
yeah, that would be great, man. Okay, I'd love to see that. You know who
Yeah.
what I like to see too? A Bo Bichette MVP. Eh?
Yes.
The guy
Yeah.
comes up because we haven't talked about Bowen, but here he is. He's been activated for the World Series finally, and let's look at the facts. That Bo Bichette was a big part of the regular season,
Mm-hmm.
but he got injured, and the Jays had trouble overcoming that in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously they did. But now you're inserting Bo Bichette into that lineup, and everybody in that lineup's been hitting.
Yeah.
And I can't see that being anything but a positive. It's going to be. I mean, the Dodgers have incredible pitching. They
Yeah.
do, and they have Otani. And in the clinching game for the Dodgers in the NLCS, this guy, you know, pitches what 7 innings or whatever it
Yeah.
was, 6, 7 innings. He allows one hit or something like that, and he hits 3 homers and 3 homers in one game.
Unreal.
So he's pretty scary talent. But when you go up and down the lineups and you see what the Jays have, and you throw Bo Bichette into the mix, I just love the Jays in this. I
Yeah.
really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've seen some video circulating of Bo taking reps at second and first. So I don't know. I feel like anything could happen, but even if you throw the guy in the 8 or 9 spot, I mean, you don't have to throw him right back into the 2 hole or 3 hole or whatever. But like you said, there's no world where they add Bo to the roster, play him, and it makes the team worse. I don't think that's a possibility.
No, no, he's a hell of a player. And
Yeah.
you know what? I like that idea. I like starting him. Easing him in eight
Yeah.
or nine. Right? No pressure.
Nope.
I mean, because all these guys have played these pressure games all the way through. Don't
Hmm.
put Bo. Don't make Bo the number 4 or 5 hitter here.
Yeah.
Throw him in there 8 or 9, get him get him started, and then from there you can move him where you want to in the lineup depending on how he's hitting, right? So,
Yeah.
but bring on the Dodgers, and I think we're both sticking with our prediction that we expect the Jays to win it all, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've made it this far. We're not stopping.
All right. Well, thank you, Ross Granado, Joe Tilley, and that's our Jays recap, and of course, World Series preview.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.